What's going on, Dolphin fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I apologize. I'm making this video kind of late. I was out late last night working. I slept super late today. I kind of like fell asleep again a little while ago. So I've been tired, and it took me a minute to get to this video. So I apologize for that, but I am making it to round out my evaluation of the current roster, free agents, and draft prospects, etc. Today I am doing my video on quarterbacks, and so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So looking at the roster right now, we have Jake Rudock, who was signed to a futures contract. He was on our practice squad this whole past season. Just young player. Hopefully can, develop into something. I mean, we obviously need, we do need a quarterback. We need somebody to step up to be that guy, to be, the quarterback that we expect to be for the future, right? We need somebody to step up to be the guy that we are going to expect to be the quarterback of our future, right? And to be there for years to come, etc., etc. So he's just a young developmental player. He's going to be around, like I said, futures contract, so he'll be in camp and what have you. Then we have Josh Rosen, who was technically our second round pick from last year from the 2019 draft, as well as one 5th round pick. So because we gave up our 2nd round pick from last year and a 5th round pick from this year, so he counts for both of those. And I mean, look, as far as Josh Rosen goes, I've said this a bunch of times. I think the kid's got skills. I think he's got the talent, etc., etc. I think he could be a really good quarterback in the league, but he's just been given the absolute worst hand that you could be given as a young quarterback coming in. And unfortunately, I predicted that he was not going to have much success in Miami coming here because he was being put into a similar situation like he was in Arizona. And it didn't pan out. He's got the talent and stuff, but he's clearly got, flaws. He doesn't, have the best, posture in the pocket, and doesn't quite always set his feet. He's kind of errant on throws, isn't particularly great at reading defenses and getting through his progressions, right? And those kinds of things are exacerbated and made worse when you were put in the kind of position that he was put in Arizona in his first season and in Miami in his 2nd season, and it's only getting worse for him. The best thing for him would be to get out of Miami and go somewhere, somewhere either that needs a quarterback where he could start right away but has a good team already kind of built up, or with, maybe an aging veteran where he could be the backup for a year or two, and then, maybe like behind, I don't know, Ben Roethlisberger or something, I don't know. But, and then, step in eventually. But unfortunately, not only are his flaws getting amplified and solidified into him, but he's also developing other, bad habits that come along with, being sacked as much as he did, and etc., etc., etc. And, it still remains to be seen. He is currently on the Dolphins roster, but I foresee him not at all being part of the Dolphins' future. He may remain on the roster this season, but I personally don't believe that he's going to be around in 2021. We'll have to see how that shakes out going forward, but that's kind of how I see it. And then getting to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I've never had anything bad to say about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I've always kind of, liked him because he's a spunky guy, etc., etc. I never really followed him that much either, though, but what I did know of him is that he's a very up and down kind of guy, right? And that was part of the discussion about bringing him in, is he might get you too many wins to fucking get you the #1 spot, etc., etc. But I have to admit, though, I did grow a deeper fondness for him after having watched him for a full season, because he does play with that passion no matter what, and he never gets down, and he is a good leader. I still unquestionably would have just rather have given Gase another year to get that team that he had in 2018 healthy, and then another good draft under his belt, and keep Ryan Tannehill, etc., right? I would not have traded for Josh Rosen. As you guys know, I would have done the draft way differently. I would have kept the majority of the players that they just fucking got rid of. I would have kept, you know, Frank Gore, Amendola, Kiko Alonso, Kenny Stills, Larry Tunsil, Minka Fitzpatrick, Kenyon Drake. I would have kept all those guys. I would have built that team the way that we were building it under Gase, and I think that they would have been super competitive with Tannehill, right? And then I would have taken Garrett Bradbury in the first round to have your center of the future to go with your two bookends, because that's what's really important on the offensive line. Guard is not the premier position. You need the skeleton. You need the two bookends, right? The tackles and the center. Those are the three most important positions on the field. On the offensive line. I would say center and blind side tackle, so that's generally left tackle, but it's the right tackle if you have a left-handed quarterback. So center and blind side tackle, I would say, are probably close to tied for most important position. But then the other tackle is close behind them, and then the guards come in after that, right? You can have just average and okay, slightly above average guards, but you need those other positions anyway. And so you could have done that. Then you could have taken a stud defensive lineman in round 2, worthy of a second-round pick, and then you could have gotten Will Grier to groom up behind Ryan Tannehill. That's how I would have done last draft, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe the Gase regime would have done something similar to that. I don't know. It's impossible to know, but that's how I would have done it, right? And so I do like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I 100% would have still rather have just kept that team. I'd rather have Tannehill, who's proving yet again. I'm not going to go into a big spiel about why everybody's wrong about Tannehill and how he actually is a great quarterback, but he continues to prove it. Despite the hate, and he's going to do wonderful things for the Titans going forward. I do expect that they're going to end up, either franchise tagging him, or more likely they will, get some sort of long-term deal done with him. But that's how I feel. I do really like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's spunky, he's fun to watch, etc. But I 100% would have rather have Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he's half the age. He's done way better things, etc., etc. And I mean, he holds a ton of Dolphins records, an NFL record. His stats have always been, at the very least, respectable. He's always improved. He can make all the throws, etc., etc., etc. Right? And then I would have rather have had. I do think he is a good leader, and I think that he would have been the better mentor to have for the young quarterbacks that you bring in. Now, in addition to the fact that the Dolphins never built up a team around him, I do think that they should have always drafted a quarterback in the mid to late rounds, even having Ryan Tannehill, just to make sure you always, have a fresh guy in that room. Make sure you always, I don't believe that Ryan Tannehill needed competition, but having competition is always good. Make sure that you always ensure that you have a good backup, and then eventually when he does retire, or if he gets injured, whatever, you have a quality guy to bring in behind him, etc., etc. But yeah, so I mean, those are the quarterbacks that we currently have on the roster. Clearly we need to upgrade overall. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the future. I don't think Josh Rosen is either, and frankly I don't think Jake Rudock is either. And as much as Chris Grier and them have said that they expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to be back, which may be the case, there are also reports that he's mulling retirement. We'll have to see. At this point I would certainly like to see him back, because again, he is fun to watch, etc., and I do like his leadership and his grit and stuff like that. But we do obviously need to upgrade. Josh Rosen, I think he needs to go somewhere else. He's not going to be able to resurrect his career here, and I think eventually he's going to be gone anyway. And Jake Rudock's just, I mean, at this point he's like a practice squad quarterback, or maybe a backup. So that's kind of about it. As far as free agents go, some notable ones are Drew Brees, although, you know, he's talking about retiring. I don't think that's ever going to happen, if I'm being honest. Tom Brady, same thing. I don't think it's ever going to happen, and he's talking, or there's reports he might retire. Eli Manning has retired officially. Phillip Rivers, no. I mean, I just don't even really, if I'm being honest, I'm not really a big Phillip Rivers fan. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, I just don't see that. I really think that Tom Brady would, if the Patriots don't bring him back like on a, you know, 1-year deal, I'm pretty sure he's going to retire before going somewhere else. To be fair, he has said that he's open about it. I just don't see it happening. I mean, after everything that they've done in New England, etc., I don't see it happening. Drew Brees, I'm pretty sure will retire if he doesn't go back to the Saints. Let's see, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, but all of those guys, those top 4 guys, Brees, Brady, Manning, and Rivers, they're all super expensive. Teddy Bridgewater, he's intriguing, but I've never been huge on him either. Same thing with Jameis Winston, and he's got additional baggage, you know, in addition to not really living up to his potential. Marcus Mariota, you know, I mean, I said right from the beginning when Tannehill went there that, you know, Tannehill's the better quarterback and he's going to overtake him. And then after that, I mean, you got, you know, Chase Daniel, Case Keenum, Chad Henne, Colt McCoy. Tannehill's, you know, technically a free agent, but he's going to get locked up. Josh McCown, Trevor Siemian. I mean, honestly, I would say that out of all of those guys, maybe Teddy Bridgewater is probably the most appealing because I think he gives you probably the most upside and will also probably come the cheapest. Or maybe a Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley's not, you know, that could be a decent pickup, I guess. I doubt they're going to pick up. I honestly doubt the Dolphins are going to get anybody in free agency, you know, etc. And so, you know, I don't really see that. Again, and there's not really many quarterbacks that I personally would look at. Like I said, maybe Teddy Bridgewater or maybe like a Brett Hundley. But other than that, not really. And I think it's pretty clear that they are, I mean, again, they could surprise everybody or whatever. But I think it's pretty clear that they're going to end up taking a quarterback in this draft. And certainly also, I think they're going to take one in the first round and probably pretty high. Now, I think that before I get to the draft prospects, again, my prediction and how I see this playing out is I think that the Dolphins are going to end up trading up for a quarterback. And I've been saying from the beginning that I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's Tua, right? There was the tank for Tua. There have been reports that no team has done more homework on Justin Herbert than the Dolphins. And recently, you know, apparently Stephen Ross is enamored with Joe Burrow and covets him, right? So who knows? What I have said is that whoever it is that Stephen Ross wants is the quarterback that they are going to get. And I believe that he will spare no expense. So I do think it is possible that they could trade up with the Cincinnati Bengals to get Joe Burrow. I don't think that's off the board at all. I think, in fact, I think it's a distinct possibility because I think that he is so cravenly desperate that he will, like, break that fucking war chest, break that bank open, and give them whatever the Bengals ask for to be able to go get that guy. Now, we'll have to wait and see, obviously. Also, as far as general philosophies go, you guys know, if you watch my channel, that I never advocate to take a quarterback in rounds 1 or 2, but I do advocate for taking a quarterback every single year in 3 or later, depending on your need. As you guys know, I think that it's a team sport. You need to have 11 guys on the field and that you need to build up a team around whatever quarterback it is that you have. I do not play into the hype of quarterback, right? History has shown that there are just as many, you know, mid to late round quarterback prospects, including the GOAT, Tom Brady, as there are first round guys who become superstars or franchise guys, etc. And there are certainly far more first-round picks at quarterback that end up being busts or just average than there are first-round quarterbacks that become franchise guys, elite passers, etc., etc., etc. So, you know, I would never, and I certainly wouldn't ever trade up to get a quarterback. So those are my philosophies. But and look, the Dolphins have already said that they're going to be big spenders in free agency. They've positioned themselves to be able to go up and do that, right? And again, I think they were playing a little bit of a I want my cake and eat it too this season. They clearly did the staples of a tanking team by jettisoning all those players, accruing draft capital and cap space. Like, it's undeniable. It blows my mind how people still say the Dolphins didn't tank, and they cite that they won 5 games as a reason. No, that's irrelevant. Right? It's irrelevant. Even if they would have won 10 games, it would have been miraculous, but it still would have been irrelevant because they did the staples. Now, if they would have won 10 games after having done the staples of tanking, now then that's really a conversation where you could say Brian Flores and his coaching staff and front office, etc., deserves, like, you know, coach of the year honors, etc., etc., etc. But it was the grit and the toughness of Ryan Fitzpatrick and his leadership, and it was the young players who are playing for their careers, their livelihood, the tape that they have, etc., etc., whatever, that brought the team to 5 wins unexpectedly. But they also were hoping for a few wins, and my speculation that they were hoping that they were going to find a few wins somewhere, because they wanted to be able to play to the narrative that they're not actually tanking, even though they did the core fundamental staples of tanking, so that way they could, you know, manufacture support from the fan base, which it's worked, because apparently still over 70% of the fan base agrees with the direction that they're going in. But, you know, if they do end up trading up to get a quarterback and give away a substantial chunk of that draft capital, and then if they, you know, just eat through that cap space in free agency, then it's just further proof. Now, again, I would love for them to prove me wrong, and they certainly have that opportunity, but free agency and the draft are right around the corner, so we will see how that plays out. Now, obviously, the top prospects are Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa. Then Jacob Eason, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jake Fromm, Jalen Hurts round out the top 7 there. You know, so, and look, again, I think that, you know, taking Tua is just not at all worth the risk. You know, I mean, again, I mean, you guys know my philosophies. I wouldn't take a quarterback at all. You know, I would just, I mean, going forward, honestly, at this point, I would just keep the guys that we have and draft a quarterback in round 3. And use all of those, the plethora of first and second round picks to build up the trenches, primarily your offensive and defensive lines, and then get a, you know, couple skill players as well. Corner, safety, running back, right? And then build up a good team with top talent around your quarterbacks, and then maybe you know, you give yourself a chance. But I personally don't see that playing out. I'm pretty sure that they're going to do one of a couple things. Either they're going to give away the fucking house to go up to number 1 and trade with the Bengals to get Joe Burrow, or they're going to end up trading to like number 2 or number 3 somehow and, you know, take Tua. And honestly, I think that there is a substantial possibility that they're leaning towards trying to finagle a trade with the Bengals, but they're going to ask for an immense amount of capital. The question will be just whether or not Stephen Ross is craven enough to do it. But if they can't get a deal done with the Bengals, then my best guess after that is they'll probably find a way to give Matt Patricia and the Lions some substantial amount of draft capital to move up to number 3 and then take Tua. Either they're going to trade up to number 1 and get Joe Burrow, or they're going to trade up to number 3 and get Tua. And I think both of those situations are a disaster and are not going to pan out for the Dolphins. And I think in a couple years from now, after things don't work out like they hoped, Brian Flores is going to end up getting scapegoated and fired, and we're going to be right back where we were at the beginning of last offseason, and, you know, we'll be having these same conversations again. Anyway, so that's really what I got for you guys. That's my, you know, breakdown of the quarterback situation as it stands right now. I mean, there's a lot that needs to happen. Obviously, you guys know I'm super anxious. Real quick, I just want to note that, you know, since it's big sports news, Kobe Bryant unfortunately died in a helicopter crash. Him and several other people, including the pilot and his daughter, Gianna. So, you know, whatever it is that you do, hopes, prayers, thoughts, wishes, whatever it is, you know, send your love to not just Kobe Bryant's family, but, you know, the families of all those people that died, you know, because they're all people and they all had families. And, you know, we shouldn't focus on just the celebrity. It is tragic that he passed away, certainly, but we need to make sure that we send our love and wishes to all of their families and not just him simply because he's a celebrity. Yeah. So, also, real quick, next week for the Super Bowl, I will be doing a live stream during the Super Bowl and watching it. So make sure you join me for that. And then after that, man, we are going to get full scale into the off season and then, you know, free agency and the draft. I mean, January is coming to a close very fast. We're just a few days away. Obviously, the Super Bowl is in the first few days of February. And then free agency is going to, you know, it's going to come and go pretty quick because honestly, the first like week of free agency is pretty much where everything happens. And then it super slows down after that because for a couple reasons. One, because all the big names go. And then two, because then we start getting closer to the draft. And then we'll have that second wave of free agency after the draft, etc. Excuse me, etc., etc. So, but then, you know, the draft is at the end of April and what have you. So things are going to be busy. There's going to be a lot going on and certainly a lot of news. The Dolphins coaching staff is already almost entirely brand new, you know, with a couple exceptions. And, you know, again, we expect that the roster is going to look a lot different next season than it did this season. So we'll see how all of that plays out. And I'm super eager and anxious for sure. Maybe a little bit of tepid excitement in there as well. I would like for that to be able to ramp up though, so I really hope that they do prove me wrong on some of these things that I predict and you know, some of the assertions that I've given, because I would really love to see them, you know, build this team in the right direction. Unfortunately, I personally don't believe that they are capable, let alone will actually do it in any sort of capacity or way. So we'll see. Again, I hope they prove me wrong, but you know, regardless of what they do, I'm going to report it factually and honestly for you guys, and I hope you guys appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos and perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.